You've probably seen them around Alabama, historic buildings marked with plaques showing they're listed on the National Register of Historic Places. But does that listing actually protect these buildings from being torn down? It's a question that comes up whenever historic property faces potential demolition. Can a property on the National Register of Historic Places be demolished? Let's verify.
The National Register of Historic Places is the federal government's official list of buildings and sites important to American history. In Alabama, hundreds of properties are on that list, from antebellum homes to civil rights landmarks. But does being on the National Register mean a building can't be torn down? Let's verify. Our sources are the National Park Service's official frequently asked questions, Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, and Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations. First, let's understand what it takes to get on the National Register. According to Title 36 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 60, properties eligible for listing are generally at least 50 years old. Properties less than 50 years old must be exceptionally important to be considered eligible for listing. But here's the surprising part. According to the National Park Service, being listed on the National Register does not place limits on what a non-federal property owner can do, including demolishing the building. The only exception is when a project involves federal money, permits, or other federal approval, but it's usually funding or licensing. In cases where there is federal assistance, Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act requires federal agencies to consider how the project could affect historic properties. So, if a private owner uses their own funds and there is no federal involvement, federal law does not prevent them from demolishing a National Registered property. However, some cities and counties have local historic preservation ordinances that offer stronger protections. When a city creates a local historic district or names a building a historic landmark, property owners may have to get permission before making major changes or tearing the building down. In these cases, a local historic preservation board can deny a demolition request if they believe the building should be saved. For example, Birmingham has a local historic district ordinance that regulates demolition, changes, and new construction within designated areas. Property owners in those districts must go through a review process and may face penalties for unauthorized demolition. These local protections are legally binding and enforceable, but not every community has these laws, and they only apply to buildings located in locally designated historic districts or landmarks. So we can verify that a private owner can demolish a property listed on the National Register of Historic Places unless federal funding or permits are involved, or the property is in a local historic district where demolition requires approval.
If you have something you want us to verify, text us at 256-382-2692.